We're back. This is Workshop 1776. I'm Jack. Today we're drinking Fall Brewing Company Plenty for All Pilsner. And we're building this. Well, these. Okay, so recently I've made a few projects that involved epoxy. So what I've been doing with the extra epoxy that I've had left over is I've just been pouring them into these little silicone, these are Star Wars ones, but silicone ice tray molds. Just because it doesn't take a whole lot and you get these like little, I don't know, figurine type deals. I've been putting them on Instagram just as like, look what I made type things. And I had an overwhelming response from people who wanted them. So I thought that I would make a few of them. This particular set that I made is for a family member who is really into Star Wars. So I thought that he would enjoy those. But I thought I would film the process, even though it's a pretty simple process, especially if you follow the directions on the epoxy. But it occurred to me that some people may not know how easy it is, so I thought I'd show you. So I have 6 different molds. It's Millennium Falcon, X-Wing, R2-D2, a Mandalorian, which is actually Boba Fett. It's a Boba Fett one that has the Mandalorian symbol on it, a Stormtrooper, and Darth Vader. So what I'm doing is just setting them all out and then putting the pigments I wanted to use next to the little cups that I'm gonna mix them in. You only need a little tiny amount of pigment. I use these little baby sticks. They're coffee stirrers. Oh, come on. These are what I use for putting pigment in the epoxy. So I only put like a tiny little amount on the end of it right here and then just toss it into the cup and then stir it with the little stick. It ends up being plenty of pigment for how much we're using for these like little ice cube tray things. I'm just doing 1 pump of the resin and 1 pump of the hardener, and it ends up being more than enough for the smaller ones like this, and then I have bigger ones like for the R2-D2 and the Millennium Falcon that I ended up needing about 2 pumps of each. But yeah, I followed the directions, made sure that I stirred them for a really good amount of time with the pigment in there, and I'm doing like a high pour. I've heard that the small stream, if you pour it from up high, because it thins out the stream, it pops some of the bubbles on the way down, so you won't end up with any bubbles in your final product. I didn't have any bubbles in any of these, so I wouldn't. I don't think it's that big of a problem. So on a couple of them, like the X-Wing right here, I ended up kind of mixing like silver and red on that one and some other ones and other things. You can kind of see that they mixed okay, but they don't really mix super well. I would say that using just like using 1 solid color per epoxy works out a lot better. But you can kind of see how this one has a little bit of like silver in it and red, but it wasn't my favorite. Alright, so once they had hardened, I took them out of the molds. You really need to pay attention to how long it takes for these things to cure. All the epoxies are going to be different for as far as their like curing time. I took a couple of them out a little bit sooner than I should have, just because I wanted to get going with the project. But I would say just wait overnight, pour them maybe in the evening, and then just let it sit overnight, and you won't run into any of the problems I had. You can see that I made 2 X-Wings right there, and the first one that I pulled out was like still really malleable, so I ended up bending the wings and stuff on it, so I ended up leaving the second one in there, which was this one, and till overnight, and it came out fine. So I would just pour them, let them sit overnight, and then you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so as you guys know, the show on Disney Plus, The Mandalorian, came out recently, and it's the same helmet that Boba Fett has, so I decided to make Boba Fett's helmet green. and it has a little like intent on it, but the Mandalorian's helmet doesn't have that. So what I ended up doing was just doing like a silver pigment to differentiate it, and then I took my bandsaw and just cut the antenna off of it, and they look like different, you know, they're different now, even though their helmets are basically the same. So I ended up getting kind of a 2-for-1 on that one. All right, here I just took some spray adhesive and sprayed it onto my workbench, and then took a sanding pad from my orbital sander, and I think that's 220 grit, and just rub the back of these onto it because they have like kind of a sharp back once they're cured, so I just wanted to sand that off. Hello? Scam call. Once I got those sanded down, I just used the same Rust-Oleum crystal clear enamel that I use for almost everything else. I did 2 coats of this, and it just brought out like a little shine to it, and you can see the pigments a lot better inside the epoxy. But that's it. Super easy. It's a kind of a cool Christmas gift idea. A lot of people who don't have the epoxy or whatever, or haven't bought it just because epoxies ends up being kind of expensive. You can make little, you know, figurines or whatever. But they had tons of these on Amazon. I think these molds were a set for, I think they're like $3 each or something like that. I got them as a gift a few years ago. But they have all kinds of stuff, not just Star Wars related. So check those out on Amazon. I'll have these linked in the description, so if you want these, you can get these. And then after I'd made these, I decided on how I wanted to display them, I guess. They're just hot glued in this little like tray. This has a little like thing on the back so we can put it on the wall if he wants to, or if he wants to take them off, all he has to do is pop them off with a hammer or something, and put them wherever he wants. So I thought it was kind of a cool idea, and it's a pretty easy project. So if you are into these kinds of things, these are super easy to make, and they'd be really cool for like little accent pieces if you're having like a party or whatever. And they're not super expensive either. You can get a smaller batch of the epoxy. Like I said, each one of these was less than 1 pump of each of the hardener and the resin. So you can end up making a bunch of them or whatever, and they're super fun. And the pigments will last forever. I've mentioned them in other videos. It's a bag. Let's show you. So this is the black one, or one of the black ones. But like, there's that much pigment in there. I don't know if you can see that. It's like all the way to here. And I've used this a bunch, and they're not gonna. You barely use any, so you're not gonna run out anytime soon. So yeah, points of performance for the epoxy pour. Make sure your molds are clean and they don't have like dirt or anything in them. I used a little air hose to blow them out before I put them on the table. And then make sure you add just a tiny amount of pigment. You can always go back and add more. Stir it really, really well for like at least 2 minutes. Like I said, follow the directions. And then I like to do the really high pour just so it pops any potential bubbles that you may have like stirred into the epoxy, and that way you don't have to worry about using a torch or whatever on them. And then sand down the backs just so they're not so rough. Use and then use like some kind of clear coat to give it a little bit of a shine to it. So that's it, super easy. I hope you guys liked it. Okay, channel update. We're doing great. I just posted another video this morning. We're at around 1,350 subscribers, which is fantastic. Like I said last time, I appreciate each and every one of you. Like, I never imagined we'd have this many people this fast. It's been like, I don't know, 4 months or so. Yeah, maybe 5 months. So yeah, we're this close to getting monetized, which is cool. It's taken off faster than I ever would have imagined. So thank you, all of you. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, beer review. Fall Brewing Company, Plenty for All Pilsner. I like it.